Alright guys, today I want to cover a really important article. It's AI's worst case scenarios. It brings to mind a lot of the reason why I started this channel to begin with over 2 years ago. It reminds me also of an article I wrote called Encryption and Privacy Matters. What happens to your data? Highly suggest you read that as well. We are entering dangerous and uncharted territory with the rise of surveillance and tracking through data, and we have almost no understanding of the potential implications. It's so true, and this comes directly from the IEEE spectrum. They interview AI experts, and really AI isn't really AI. It's not really intelligent, which is only as good at decision making as it has data. And that's part of the reason for the surveillance capitalism, because this stuff needs data. And the rise of all the countries around the world that are competing right now for artificial intelligence supremacy, that is the future, and it is a race to the bottom, as it says in here. It is a dangerous race to the bottom, because when you think about it, they're taking all this data, they're collecting everything on us, and they're also using positive and negative reinforcement to change our behavior. This means there is no democracy with this. Without privacy, there is no democracy. That's something I'm convinced of in the future, and that is one reason, I believe people should have a voice. They shouldn't just be under a digital dictatorship. This is going to be so much worse than people realize if there is no pushback and regulation. And I have fears that there won't be, because of the competition between all the countries in the world to be the best at AI. Of course, it's going to be more flawed if it doesn't have more real data on real humans. And it can only think as well as it has data. The end of privacy and free will. Very possible. We need to be aware of this kind of stuff. Everything we do, we produce data. Everything that we do on the internet, everything we do in person. And with the rise of smart cities, those kinds of environments are using scoring to determine, how much money people have. Things that are like social credit scores, which I previously covered, where the creator of social credit scores in China is actually trying to market it to Western countries, and at the same time is heavily involved in the creation of these smart cities. And the digital passports that are required, one of the first requirements for a smart city is to have digital passports so that people can be part of that smart city and interact. Some of the problems with this AI predictive analysis, predictive policing. They take data on friends, on social networks, online stuff, and then they determine who they think is going to commit a crime. Now, really, who's responsible for this software? Is anyone held accountable for the mistakes? That's what I want to know. Who's going to be held responsible? I feel like no one is. When you program something into a machine, call it artificial intelligence, and let it loose, you're basically absolving yourself of any responsibility. Is that the case here? Because it sure looks like it. That's one of the biggest issues I see. They don't mention that in the article, but maybe they should have. Who's responsible for the decisions of the artificial intelligence when it discriminates? So it shows how flawed this kind of thing can be, and we need to be aware of the flaws that are built in with the bias of the programmer. And like I said, who is going to be held responsible when someone gets hurt or someone's life is ruined by this scoring system? For example, now we're looking at a previous video I did, which was called Hex Wave. In fact, it's in the news again, and this uses millimeter wave technology to scan your body all the way to your skin layer. So it gets a nice naked imprint of your body where it can see everything in your pockets. Now, if they don't know how to identify what they see in your pockets, does that give them probable cause to violate your rights and interrogate you? That's a good question. Now, of course, I'm speaking from the side of somebody who's doing nothing wrong, who just wants to make sure that we're not entering a dangerous place in history, because it sure looks like it. And I think it's important to talk about these things, so I'm going to continue talking about them, no matter how controversial it may get. And so we see these body scans with the millimeter wave technology, and this kind of thing, it takes a full naked screen of your body. Who consents to that? Especially with this new one called HexWave, which is now going to be at Wisconsin University, where they're going to be using it to experiment on the students as they want to use it in possible future security. And they talk about wanting to put it in schools. They call it non-intrusive, but it scans all the way to your skin. And it also uses artificial intelligence to score you. It also adds you to an artificial intelligence, essentially making one person unsuspicious and other ones where it discriminates and names them as a suspicious person. Now, who is going to be responsible if something bad were to happen with this technology, where somebody gets hurt because they were wrongly discriminated against? That's what I want to know. And it's important to bring this up. I was reading this article, University of Wisconsin, to test this HexWave body scanner detection process. They talk about how they can have it discreetly hidden, where the body scanners aren't even known by the people walking through them, where the people who aren't consenting to body scans are actually having their body scanned anyway. So I see a big problem with that. I think there should be consent here. I don't think they should be hiding body scanners, and it should be something that is out in the open, and people should volunteer for body scanners. It should not be a surveillance police state type of thing that is found in our own neighborhoods, possibly if you live in the cities, and uses artificial intelligence to categorize us in a cloud-like fashion where it shares this data across the world. Using artificial intelligence, positive and negative reinforcement by making them pay higher bills for plane tickets. That's actually happening right now with your privacy. If you happen to browse a certain way, your insurance rates, your health insurance rates, life insurance rates, it's going to be so much more of your future. They mention how in the future, your income, your salary, your hourly income, whatever it is you're getting, is going to be in flux. It's going to be fluid, meaning an artificial intelligence system they are predicting will be changing your income constantly, where your employer will become Big Brother. In fact, the article is called Your Employer Becomes Big Brother. And it talks about how in the future we're going to have our employers doing constant scores on us based on our online behavior, our who knows what beliefs, or even our own hobbies and activities. Anything could affect these scores. It's a huge issue here. And I do want you to read my article that I wrote, Encryption and Privacy Matters, What Happens to Your Data. Kind of shows my motivations behind creating so many. I have 170 plus privacy tutorials, not all privacy, but mostly privacy tutorials. And what drives me is because I want a free future. I want a free future, and I think we all deserve that opportunity. And I think the only way we're going to get it is by practicing privacy right now. And this data is not going to go away. And if you're not practicing privacy now, you should be. And I go into a lot of details on why in this article and how they use this artificial intelligence and data collection in order to modify human behavior, done for big corporations, lobbyists, even your companies and whatnot. They use employment scoring at certain companies. They now have people go in for monthly reviews where an artificial intelligence program basically analyzes their entire time on the computer and tries to determine if they're improving their score, and they're under constant stress by trying to continue improving their score, but eventually you have to plateau somewhere. So what happens then? Do you just get more stressed? I don't know. You tell me. Emphasize that it's on Odyssey. It's the only place I posted it outside my blog. So you can read it over there. And I talk about how they mention if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But the truth is, people find themselves in positions where exporting the truth could get them killed, and where they may even subconsciously make decisions based on the algorithmic reward and punishment reinforcements. When you get adjusted enough to this online stuff where your posts disappear, I'm starting to notice people on my YouTube, some of their posts are actually disappearing, their comments. And that's pretty concerning. That's what they call shadow banning, where people who may, I don't know what their political beliefs are, but I don't like to see anyone silenced. And generally, they're pretty calm and, logical comments. So I don't understand why that's happening, but I do believe it has something to do with this artificial intelligence scoring system and the flagging system. Mass surveillance, it breeds fear, self-censorship, and meekness. This comes directly from a study. I do want you to check out that article. It's a pretty long article. I'm not going to go over it now, but I did want to tell you about this great article, 6 Worst Case Scenarios, Artificial Intelligence. Make sure to check that out. Check out my blog over at buymecoffee.com/politictech/posts or politictech.wordpress.com. Both have a lot of the same posts, your choice. And make sure to follow me on Odyssey. Follow me there, and I'll be back later with more on how to protect your privacy.